We serve a little over 400 lunches, breakfast, lunches, and snacks a day, and they are at 5 schools within the area. It ranges from kindergarten up through about 8th grade. We currently don't do any high school, so we're primarily focusing on elementary and junior highs. And they are mostly located around SLU. Most of them are schools that were struggling with food service. Either they just couldn't get a reasonable financial deal from the food service companies, or they just really didn't like the food. Philosophically, it didn't agree with what they were trying to do within the school, and they wanted to teach their children, the children at the school, how to eat better, to be more familiar with their food systems. I had a graduate student that was doing, she was doing a project at a local school, and she was doing nutrition education in the classroom where they would bring in different produce, they would show them the kids how to prepare it, and then they would eat it, and it was a way to expose them to different foods. But the school pointed out that they didn't have a cafeteria, and they approached her and said, we don't have a cafeteria, we don't have a kitchen, but about 70% of this school qualified for free and reduced lunches. So clearly there was a need. So they approached the student and said, is there anything you all could do? We know you have a kitchen, your nutrition dietetics department, is there some way you could help us? So the student and I started talking about it, what's possible, what could we do, and we decided, well, maybe we should go into business and see if we could give them the lunches that they needed. And so it evolved just from a need that arose in the community and us figuring out, could we do something about it? So we really try to address schools that don't have access to food service otherwise, or perhaps they're so small that it's not a good contract with the food service companies because it gets expensive for food service companies to address really small, specialized populations. But that's something that we can do. For example, one school Marion Middle School that we work with, the prior contractor that they had charged them the reimbursement rate each day for the lunches, but then charged them an extra $30,000 a year because of the hassle of delivering and preparing for a small school. Well, we can do the same service for the reimbursement rate, and the school can keep their $30,000 and put that to better use. But wholesale is the backbone that makes all of our other operations work, because essentially it's that putting up of the harvest. So whether we're talking about the school lunch program, that's what allows us to do 70% local year-round, is because we put up the harvest. Otherwise, we would be around the 5–10% that everybody else that's just, okay, it's apple season, we'll put an apple on the tray. Most schools or most school lunch programs aren't buying directly from the farmers, or if they do, they're not processing. So they're really limited on the amount of time that they can serve local, and depending on where they are, that could be a really small window of time that you have local produce available when you get up into the northern climates. So it is our processing that is unique, and that's what allows us to hit 70%. So our wholesale is really our processing operation that allows the school lunches to serve local, our retail cafe to serve local, and we also supply Maplewood, Richmond Heights, and some other school districts in the area. So we really, yes, we want to take care of our own business, but ultimately we're trying to get local food throughout the city, and that's the wholesale. We started wholesaling to local school districts, but so many have gone to contract food service companies where they're hiring people that don't know how to cook. So if they're doing that, then that means that all they can really do is heat and serve food. But that's not what we do in wholesale. We're minimally processing, we're making ingredients that are meant to be cooked and made taste good. So that's a large part of why we expanded our school lunch program, is because we realized that we have a lot of culinary skill within the nutrition dietetics department in our program. And ultimately, we need to be able to make the food taste good. So we wanted control over the final product. Ultimately, if we can grow it, process it, and serve it within the St. Louis community, that also, that means that the dollars stay in St. Louis. When we're buying from larger companies, that means that the money gets pulled out of St. Louis and gets distributed through the earnings of big multinational corporations to, one, people outside of our community, and two, honestly, to people who aren't too worried about money. It's the people that have invested in it. If we can keep the money within the St. Louis, then it's going to farmers, it's going to the people that are working in the food service, and ultimately it's going to supporting schools. So it's a huge difference on the economic effect of what we're doing, and that's a fairly significant part of why we're doing it.